Hello everyone, this is Venus Brown, back with another reaction to The Crown. This is Season 5, Episode 5, called The Way Ahead. I'm pretty sure we're finally getting some movement towards dissolving the marriage between Prince Philip and Princess Diana after the Queen finally feels like enough is enough. I just don't really understand why it took her this long to realize that this was not a tenable marriage. Now, the description on the show doesn't say exactly that, but I'm hoping that we're finally getting to that point. I know it happens at some point. I just don't remember exactly when. I don't remember exactly when in real history, and I don't remember exactly when on the show. Let's get to the show and find out if this is the episode.
Who've gone out into the world and made their mark. I'm just a useless ornament. Little wine with my cheese.
You're a criminally wasted resource, sir. Just look at the extraordinary work you do with the Prince's Trust. Turning young lives around, giving out thousands of grants a year.
Children from crowded and low-income households can come and do their homework.
Doesn't sound like an ornament gathering dust to me.
So that's the thing that I don't really get about this perspective, that he feels like he's a wasted resource, or that he's not making his mark like other men in the world, because he is doing these things that on paper, and I would think in the media, actually do make him look like he is making a mark in the world, like he is making a real difference. So the idea that he feels like he's a wasted resource doesn't really ring true to me. But then again, now I don't know how he is in real life, but as he's presented in the show, he's kind of a pessimist and doesn't seem to see real value in what he's doing, or maybe he just feels like he could be doing so much more. And I think a lot of us have this opinion of ourselves where we look down on ourselves, and we don't see the value in ourselves and in what we do. Let's get back to the show.
Mummy?
I have to wait till she picks up in the other room.
Or how he feels about all this. I mean, they seem to have an arrangement, but I don't think I ever recall hearing about his views on any of this in real life and not on the show.
The rate at which that language is degenerating has become a cause for concern. It's a tragedy for the next generation that in the birthplace of the language of Keats, of Shelley, of Shakespeare.
This idea of the erosion of the English language, I hear a lot from people that are frustrated with the amount of new titles and stuff like that, especially in the LGBTQ plus community. Yeah, there's a lot of labels, because we humans, we tend to label everything. And we tend to not feel like we fit when we don't have a label that appropriately encompasses us, at least in some ways. But for some people, it seems there's a lack of understanding that language does shift and change over time. What he's talking about isn't a matter of what we did with Native Americans, where we came over, took over their land, and started sending them to our schools, requiring that they learn our language and stop speaking their language. What they're talking about is this almost natural shift in the language that occurs with almost any language. As time goes on, as modernization occurs, as the world and society changes, language will shift and change. Maybe not dramatically, but it does shift and change. And some of the words that we use within the LGBTQ plus community have actually been around for centuries, some of them thousands of years. We're talking about mostly words that have Latin roots. Meanings tend to keep with those Latin roots. There is some subtle shifts. We had a conversation about the word bisexual, because I think most people that are not part of these conversations just think the simple definition of bisexual. Bi meaning two, sexual, sexes. So then their assumption is just male and female. Some of them don't fit either. Some of them don't fit as a female or male. And some of them actually take offense to the idea that bisexuality was ever just only male and female. Some of them fit a little bit more as one than the other, and sometimes that alignment doesn't fit with what they were assigned at birth. Sometimes they seem to be completely outside of, or sometimes they just seem to be a little bit in the middle. And that's actually perfectly natural. within species, within humanity, within the world, being somewhere in the middle rather than on the fringes is perfectly natural, because there is this dichotomy in society where it's put off as if there is only one or the other, not a both, and not an in-between, not an outside of. The thing is that's not how real human beings work. Real human beings have this whole spectrum of gender, and the reality is that we've always had other genders. We get mad and upset about all these labels, but these labels help to tell people about who they are. They help them to identify themselves in other places in the world. So more recently, I think a lot more people, at least within the community, are starting to hear this more encompassing description of bisexuality, which includes more than male and female, two sexes, your own sex and somebody else's, or any two sexes at all. And even within the bisexual community, you have some people that are like, no, it's a simple male or female and that's it. But also within the bisexual community, there is this understanding for a lot of them that it's always been more encompassing. We want to act like these others don't exist, or they didn't exist before, like these are made up terms and ideas. But really, there are other people like them. These other genders have always existed. Even if you didn't put a label on them, they existed. And there were people in the world, all over the world, that didn't know where they fit and didn't have a term to describe it. And the terms that were out there, they had access to, didn't describe them. They didn't fit with those terms and ideas. And so what does that do? That makes them feel like they don't fit in the world. That makes them feel like there is nobody else like them in the world. And that's just really not true. No matter how many labels that we put on them, these identities did exist in the world. And individual people just didn't have access to them. And still some individual people don't have access to them. But a lot more people do have access to those terms now, so that they can figure out that there is a place that they fit in the world, that there are other people like them. Representation is so important, because just knowing that there are other people in the world that are like you can help you to feel okay in your position in the world, can help you to feel okay as a person. Feeling like there is no one else like you. What happens? They try to hide who they are. They try to be like everybody else. They think there's something wrong with them because they think there's nobody else like them. So they try to be like other people. That constant trying to present this image of being like other people is exhausting. Frankly, it often doesn't work. Maybe I'll get off my soapbox and stop talking about this stuff, but it's important to me. We all should be able to love who we love, be attracted to who we're attracted to, not attracted if we're not attracted, and identify as who we are without people making fun of it, without people complaining about the plethora of labels. CB radios, they're still used today. I have friends that are very into this stuff. When I moved from Seattle to Florida, we used a CB to communicate back and forth between me and my husband while we were driving, trying to keep an eye on things on the road.
You're awfully good at feeling your way along.
Stop it.
Risk being responsible for breaking up a royal marriage.
Which is already broke up pretty much.
But
But you don't
don't
know
want
that.
our friend crossing the street and selling it to anyone else either. Put it in the safe and hope for another day.
And here it is, the intro for The Crown, Season 5. If you like this content, you can go ahead and click that thumbs up button. If you like, you can click the bell to subscribe. And if you click all, you'll get notifications whenever new content is loaded. You can share it or even save it to watch later if you like. That's totally up to you. It's no one else's decision. Just yours. And now, here it comes. The crown. Years later. So now the damning evidence is probably coming out. Because you can bury stuff like that, but it tends to reach its way into the world.
You are
at
both
some point.
resolved on this. This is really what you want.
Really. A long time ago. A long, long time ago.
Very well.
You know, I guess she's had at least over 3 years to mull this stuff over after that point in the last episode where she was talking to that religious figure. Him.
And ask the public to join us in praying,
It's just
and
a
we'll continue.
separation. But at least that's an acknowledgement.
Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh.
The way ahead. I suppose I should be grateful. For 25 years, they finally agree.
And what did they come up with?
Public into the royal box at the Albert Hall from time to time.
Radical.
Making the requirement to bow or curtsy to some members of the royal family optional.
Earth to square that with a country that's supposed to be a modern democracy.
I told them she
I
should be
would
thinking
say
something
it's a start,
much more
and
radical.
just keep moving forward a little bit at a time.
Cost-cutting measures and
People have a hard time with
civilist.
massive
I say,
change
why not abolish it
all
altogether?
at once.
Have them. Why not something more far-reaching than that? Ending the bar on the eldest daughter's inheriting the throne. Reflect a modern Britain, what it looks like, what it feels like, what its concerns are. Get rather carried away.
That was a different Charles today. Separation from Diana has liberated him, energized him. And what if being informed and in touch is what people want from their sovereign?
Agitating politically is not what people want from their sovereign.
I think you have different people that have different views on that.
I just think
Some
while
of
we're
them
setting
do
up
and some of them
committees, or
don't. I would feel much
might be
better
useful
about
to acknowledge
leadership that's in touch. Is his jacket buttoned up?
Yep.
Oh, it's not even buttoned up. It's just lined up wrong. Okay. I thought it was like, you know,
Yep.
where the button was one higher than it should have been. Sounds like a song that they would play to, like, exercise your volume and range.
Yes. At the time, the newspaper decided not to go ahead with it because of the potential damage it might do to the royal marriage.
And now
But
they're
now
like,
that you
oh,
and the Princess of
fair
Wales
game.
have official to publish. And I think we must brace ourselves for...
How can they get away with this?
Because it's the real world.
It's a private
You
conversation.
live in the real world.
Privately so.
And the real
Well, the
world
intentional
thinks they're
interception of
entitled
private
to
phone calls is
everything
illegal.
about
The amateur radio
celebrities,
operator in
the royal
this case
family,
claims to have
presidents,
stumbled upon
any other
conversation by chance,
politicians.
which
and
can be difficult to disprove.
I disagree with them for the most part. I
conversation.
think people's private lives should be private if
discovered
they
what
want
was
them to be.
Actually said.
But when you're talking about
No
royalty
details
and a
yet, but
possible divorce, a
we're told
breaking
it
up of a
was
marriage,
Intimate.
I do think that that
Intimate.
probably should be fair game.
Programs start the week. I can't start the week without you.
You fill up your tank.
Yes, you do. I need you all the time. Oh, darling, I just want you now.
This kind of stuff coming out within society, and of course leadership's going to get their hands on it and everything. That's the unfortunate reality of all of it. What I was thinking though was like how it would feel as a person to know that your mother and father, your grandparents, like all these people in your family are going to also get wind of it, and they're gonna have to like digest this kind of stuff regularly about you. And just think about that, just the idea of your mom and dad or your grandma and grandpa hearing this kind of stuff about you, because Lord knows the last thing you want is to be in a situation where you're stuck being part of some personal private thing like that. You know, like seeing your parents naked, or seeing your parents in the act of something, or hearing your parents in the act of something. Ugh. And then how do the parents feel when they see us in the act of something, or hear us in the act of something? So yeah, just totally uncomfortable. That just like entered my mind when I saw the queen reading the paper. She's had to deal with this multiple times, and she gets to hear about these really private, intimate moments with her kids that I don't think any of us really want to be privy to. Not when it comes to close family members like that. I wonder how many other recordings that guy got and was just like, no, this is like the damning one. Whereas maybe those other ones weren't quite as damning.
I bought you some weapons-grade, entirely chemical cold medication. I know you're probably taking some sort of root.
Garlic, ginger, and elderberry.
Garlic, ginger, and elderberry at least sound good while you're sick. A lot better than all this medicated cough medicine and stuff.
But no one deserves this.
Thank you. Embarrassing, wasn't it?
It's a little gynecological.
A little gynecological.
Two teenagers of a certain age and entirely in love.
You are sweet. I doubt our dear papa will see it that way.
Sheer scale of your achievement. In one fell swoop, you've succeeded in alienating the church of your moral fitness.
Grateful that we directed at them for once.
I mean, even if you were just a common person and something like that came out to your entire family, even a smaller group, but like very important people to you, it would be very devastating to the person for a while.
Intimate and authoritative profile of an enlightened Prince of Wales for a quarter of a century.
I'd be like, okay, this sounds good, but I need a lot of editing capabilities to decide if I'm going to clear these things.
Jonathan been bound to ask about the marriage at some point. But far greater prospect of reward.
Defender of faith in general. What about the Jews and Catholics, and Sikhs and Muslims and Hindus? Are they not its subjects as well?
There is, of course, one question about whose association with Camilla Parker Bowles was a deciding factor in its collapse.
Even within a marriage, one must still nurture outside friendships.
And Mrs. Parker Bowles is
You
just
were
one of
caught
a
red-handed,
number of friends that
being
I've
far
been
more
close
than
to
just friends.
over the...
Try to be faithful from the start.
Of course, till
Until I wasn't.
the marriage couldn't be saved. Both of us having done our best. Yes, old friendships were rekindled.
Is it your hope that this issue
Are they going to show how he reacted, or are they just going to let it go on behind closed doors?
They've been delighted with the response to his controversial television profile.
Including the Prince's close friendship with Mrs. Camilla Parker Bowles. The admission divided viewers between those who felt it was a refreshing attempt to clear the air and those who felt many are already calling her revenge dress.
It was his desire to be defender of faith in general, rather than defender of the faith that is one most favored.
I think it's important
whole constituencies
to acknowledge that multiple faiths can be on the right track without insisting that one way is the only way. And I imagine that is extremely hard for somebody like the Queen, who's had to be the head of the Catholic Church for all this time. I've found churches that are open to other faiths to be much more welcoming and much more in line with my idea of thinking than others. And frankly, I don't go to church anymore. I don't really believe in that system anymore. But if I'm gonna go to church, it's going to be in one where they welcome everyone from all walks of life, preferably from any walk of faith, because who are any of us to tell every other faith that they're wrong? I just don't think that's right. That's just because of my walk of faith and then eventual walk away from faith. But that's a discussion for another time that I don't know if I'll have. I think I've had some discussions that approach that a little bit, but I don't think I've thoroughly discussed that matter on any of my YouTube content. All of it that has led me to this point is a difficult issue to breach, and, you know, maybe I'm not ready to breach that with everyone that sees my videos. Those
Take some
flowers
points
look like these ones I saw at Lowe's yesterday. I think they
Because
were
a lot of
called
the really important
firecracker
things I want
flowers,
to
but
say
those
about
ones were
education,
like this,
environment, and
like
architecture got
kind of
drowned out
burning
by all
red
the
color.
hoo-ha
Whereas
about
these
adultery.
are more of a fuchsia.
Also, people are interested. Won't have some of this asparagus. It's fresh from the garden.
My kid who doesn't like to eat vegetables, they said they used to like asparagus and now they don't.
He might be as mad as everyone thinks, but he's not as weak as everyone
He
thinks.
might be as mad as everyone thinks, but not as weak.
Charles I saw
wouldn't
today
call
was
him
strong,
mad. I'd just
mature.
say he has a different perspective on things.
Not only disease has already begun,
Characteristics, natural in our
possibly more.
species.
Today he will be King Charles III. You want to know what that will look and feel like? He's starting to show us.
Judgments are mostly not true. That people out there have no idea who I really am. Each of you has something within you, an unacknowledged greatness, a talent that deserves to be recognized.
Now see, this is such a much better reaction
To give you
than
the confidence to
that
believe
attitude he
in your
had when
ideas
Princess Diana went and
and the
hugged
money
that
to
kid
bring
in
them
the
to
hospital.
fruition. Only when we risk reaching too far that we find out how far it's possible to go.
Yep, that right there. Return on investment is so important when it comes to helping people improve themselves. So, you know, when you think, oh, putting this money into underserved populations is such a waste, consider that. You get this return on investment that usually is significant. All right, so that was episode 5 of the 5th season of The Crown. I really liked this episode. It started out with that raunchy revolution that was going to cause devastation for a lot of people. And like I said, the whole idea of your parents and grandparents and stuff like that, finding things like that out and having to read about it and hear about it, not something I would even want to think about. But overall, you know, the evolution of how that was dealt with and then how he presented himself later, I think was good. I think it was a good turning point, and I think it was good to kind of present the crown in a more understanding light. Yes, change can be scary, but sometimes change has to happen. Sometimes you have to move on. You have to start encompassing more people in your vision. You have to start creating a broader vision that includes more people. I don't feel like it is beneficial to be too disconnected from your people, whether you're talking about royalty or politicians or celebrities or your boss or anything. If you're in a leadership position and you're disconnected from half the people that you're leading, what do you think that's going to do? I don't think it's a benefit. I think it's a problem. But yes, when you are creating changes like that, you've got to do it carefully. There are a lot of people afraid of changes. And when you do a lot of drastic changes very quickly, sometimes even if it's not quickly, if it's a lot of drastic changes, even if it's slowly, the wrong people get wind of it, it can be devastating. You can ruin a system, whether it be royalty or something else. So change is important, but you got to do it carefully. You need to be very thoughtful and holistic about how that change is being created and how you try to create a sense of it being palatable to the population, including conservative populations, because it is the conservatives usually that you're going to have a great deal of kickback from. Liberals can give kickback too for things that change too much, especially if they're changing in a direction that they don't like. Like right now, I feel like changes are going too far back to the past, and it's creating a lot of problems that are harming a lot of people. And so some of us will definitely push back against that, and rightfully so. We need to be encompassing our people and welcoming them and treating them with respect and humanity, not trying to shun them and push them out and treat them like they shouldn't exist. That's not helpful. It's just not. But I will see you next week for The Crown Season 5, Episode 6. I am aware that we're supposed to be starting Season 6 on November 9th. I'm going to try to do one more extra episode. We can just transition to Season 6 right after that. But it will still be one episode a week, just like I'm doing with all the other stuff. We'll be taking a couple trips in the next month or so, but I believe I can get these episodes done and prepare them so that it's a little easier to do while I am away. Anyway.
Till next time, I'll see you when I see you. If you like this video, please click the like button. If you want more content, click subscribe. If you click that little bell and click all, then you'll get more content notifications.